Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Bridges,
Mic's off.
Buckner, Coleman, Cook, Coram, Danielson,
Good morning.
Donovan, Fields,
Here.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Gonzalez, Hansen, Henriksen, Heisey, Holbert, Jaquez Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Lee, Liston, Lundin, Moreno, Pedersen,
Here.
Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott,
Here.
Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story,
Excused.
Winter,
Excused.
Woodward,
Excused.
Zenzinger. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 32 present, 0 absent, 3 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Aurora please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good morning. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal, Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move that the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, March 29th, 2022 be dispensed with and the Journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed Senate Bills 185, 186, 187, 188, 89, 90, 91, and 92. Correctly re-engrossed Senate Bill 53 and 97. Correctly revised House Bill 1226, 1252, and 1275. Correctly re-revised House Bill 1049, 1168, and 1209. Correctly enrolled Senate Bill 137, 141, and 142. Senate Joint Resolution 007 and 009.
Committee reports.
March 29, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1108 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 29, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Joint Resolution 008 be postponed indefinitely. March 29, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1156 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 29, 2022, Committee on Local Government. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 145 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 29, 2022, Committee on Local Government. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 146 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the titles to all the bills on the consent calendar?
House Bill 1226, Representative Tipper and Carver, Senators Hawkes, Lewis, and Cook, concerning the continuation of licensing requirements for massage therapists and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of the one bill on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1226.
Members, we are on thirds. Is there any discussion on the one bill, House Bill 1226? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1226.
Senator Smallwood will be recorded as a no vote on 1226. Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I request that I be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1226.
Senator Lundin will be recorded as a no vote on 1226. Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of the one bill on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? Other than those. With a vote of 30 ayes, 2 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1226 is passed. Co-sponsors. Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1252?
House Bill 1252, Representative Burnett, Senators Kirkmeyer and Hawkes Lewis, concerning provisions of public school contracts and in connection therewith specifying requirements and limitations for such provisions.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for passage of House Bill 1252 on final reading. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1252. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 30... Nope. If you need a cough drop, I think there are some in the sergeant's drawer over here. No votes for 1252. Senators Lundin, Gardner, Minority Leader Holbert, Sonnenberg. With a vote of 28 ayes, 4 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1252 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Fields, will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1275?
House Bill 1275, Representative McLaughlin and Larson, Senator Fields, concerning the continuation of the School Safety Resource Center Advisory Board and connection therewith, implementing the recommendation in the Department of Regulatory Agency's Sunset Report.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of House Bill 1275 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'm going to be a no vote on this, not because the School Resource Safety Center is not an excellent thing, not because I do not support all of this, but we have removed the sunset altogether. And it seems to me that many of these commissions, boards, and things that we do benefit greatly by a periodic review. And having sat on the Joint Committee on School Safety, we looked at all of this very hard. I wouldn't want to do that again for about 5 years. But to say that we're never going to do it again, that it's there indefinitely, means that we don't do a sunset report. We don't ask ourselves, are we doing the right thing? Are we spending resources the right way? Is the structure doing what it's intended to do? And I will be a reluctant no vote because of that. Thank you.
Further discussion. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, if you look at the bill clearly states that DORA recommends the continuation of the School Safety Resource Center, which is a center that's available for all school districts and all schools around the state of Colorado. They recommend that we do that work, that we continue to do that work. There's still a need to do that work. And to send a message from the Colorado General Assembly that we don't believe that the work that they do to keep our kids safe has value, and has merit is just not the right thing to do right now. So I urge everyone to vote yes on this House Bill 1275.
The motion is the passage of House Bill 1275. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Gardner, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Rankin, Coram, Smallwood. With a vote of 25 ayes, 7 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1275 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, committee reports.
March 29, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1162 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 29, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1018 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 29, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 180 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 29, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 151 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. There has been a request to remove House Bill 1153 from the consent calendar. Colleagues, that will be added to the bottom of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar.
House Bill 1153 will be removed from the consent calendar and placed at the bottom of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar. General Orders, second reading of bills. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over House Bill 1089, 1165, and 1153 to tomorrow, Thursday, March 31st.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those bills will lay over. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 114?
Senate Bill 114, Senators Heisey and Story, Representative Robertson Catlin, concerning fire suppression ponds.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the approval of Senate Bill 114 and the committee report.
To the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're going to hear about the bill here in just a bit, but what you will hear is there was extensive stakeholdering. I think we have determined that is a word up here at the state legislature. And as a result of that work, working with the various and sundry and dedicated and passionate stakeholders, we added several provisions to the bill that protected our water holders, gave them more flexibility, and all in all, those provisions were added at the request of the folks that own the water.
Is there any further discussion of the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report. Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill. Any further discussion?
Thank you,
Senator Heisey.
Mr. Chairman. Let me tell you a little bit about this bill. It is a fire suppression ponds water rights bill. The concept came out of Park County, the Bailey area in particular. When I was campaigning up there some years ago, I was at an event, and immediately the organization that had become very concerned, and rightfully so, about the risk of wildfire in the Bailey area. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of homes scattered throughout the Bailey area in a forested area with only one way in and out. Having come from El Paso County, where we'd previously had two very serious fires, I understood their concerns right away. And so they got to work, found some resources, did a study, and this is what we've come up with. So let me just explain a bit about it. The bill creates a process for counties to apply to the state engineer for the designation of fire suppression ponds. Across the state engineer is in the process of identifying man-made ponds that are diverting water out of priority, which, by the way, we have never contested that the water in those ponds is not owned by the people that own the hole in the ground. And the state engineer is ordering for those to be drained. This is happening primarily in the Upper Ark Basin, which also originates in Park County. And in some rural areas of the state, fire departments have been known to tap into these ponds for fire emergencies. Sometimes another source of water is a 20 to 30 minute drive away. What we're saying with this bill is let's find a way to determine which of those ponds are truly critical for firefighting and preserve the ones that are. The bill sets up a process for counties and fire districts to be able to identify critical fire suppression ponds and for the state engineer to determine whether those ponds can be preserved. The bill lays out clear criteria that the ponds need to meet to qualify. Moving on to some of that criteria, well, just moving on. We'll get there. Having adequate water resources to be able to suppress fires is something that just about all of our communities in Colorado need, particularly for very remote areas that often don't have access to fire hydrants or other firefighting resources. These ponds are often all we've got in the event of a fire. And the fires we're talking about here are not wildfires. These ponds are not going to put out a wildfire. These ponds are going to assist in putting out a lightning strike, a structure fire, the things that cause wildfires. We don't need to emphasize how critical wildfire mitigation and suppression resources are. Preserving the resources that we currently have is a common sense given that we need significantly more resources than we currently have. The bill is a product of extensive work with stakeholders in the water and firefighting community. This bill does not protect recreational or other non-critical ponds. It does not create a process for anyone to be able to construct a new pond and claim it as a fire suppression pond. It does not grant a free pass on water rights. Rather, this bill is thoughtfully and narrowly crafted to be able to identify and preserve fire suppression ponds that truly are critical. We recognize that we in Colorado have a delicate balance to strike as we're juggling extreme challenges of both drought and wildfire. We believe this bill achieves that balance and is critical to help ensure that all communities in Colorado have the resources necessary to suppress fires, and we ask for your yes vote.
There looks to be an amendment coming to the desk. And indeed, there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L009?
Amendment L009 by Senator
Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we have one more amendment to offer.
How about we move L009 before?
I move L009.
Fantastic. Thank you. Would you like to tell us about the amendment, sir?
Thank you. Yes, I would. This is again some more clarification that came about late in the process. We did our best to make it the perfect baby coming out of committee, but we had other water districts that had concerns, and so we worked closely with them to come up with this amendment. It appears fairly complicated because it is. Since we had not adopted the committee reports, this amendment amended both the committee reports and the bill itself. So it kind of goes back and forth, and we strike this line and add those words and do those types of things. So let me tell you what that 4-page amendment does. It clarifies the role of the state engineer in the process. They review county applications and verify statutory requirements for ponds, and that includes ponds being less than 6 acres and being in existence since 1972. Adds basin roundtables to the rulemaking process. Rulemaking will establish firefighting-related criteria for ponds, being accessible to fire trucks, being located in wildfire hazard areas, having no other available water close by. Those types of things will come out of the rulemaking. Current bill language directs the Division of Fire Prevention and Control to solicit input from stakeholders, including firefighter entities, local governments, and water providers. Changes the 20-year designation. There is a 20-year sunset on these ponds. If after 20 years, their designation will expire unless extended by the state water engineer, and that would come from a process of the counties reapplying. If conditions change, if water is no longer available, if now we've got hydrants in the area because of development, So this bill, or this amendment, changes that designation from 20 years to 15 years. It limits designations to 30 surface acres total per county. We wanted to put a limit on this. We weren't trying to make large reservoirs or many ponds. We understand, we absolutely understand that the evaporation off these ponds is harming someone somewhere down the line. And so we wanted to figure out a way to keep that under control. And then it extends timelines to ensure ample time for comment. Water rights holders and others would have 140 days to provide comments and concerns to the state water engineer, and then 70 days to petition the water court if there's a presumption of injury from a designated pond. So that's basically what L009 does.
Sarah Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to my good colleague, the senator from Fountain, and all the effort that's really gone on under this bill for more than the last 2 months. And I rise in support of Amendment L009. Again, it was the kind of the fruits of efforts over several weeks and lots of engagement and discussion, and does, from my perspective, provide at least further protections for existing water right holders. So I rise in support of Amendment L009.
We have Amendment L009 before us. Any further discussion on L009? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. L009 is passed. To the bill, Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After that explanation, I renew my motion for the approval of SB 114.
Sarah Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill has been through a lot of changes from its introduced version, and I certainly appreciate all those changes. What I do think we need to be frank about with this bill is it is an exception to the prior appropriation system, which is the foundation of water in Colorado. And any adjustments to it should be taken very seriously. And I think that the bill sponsors have done that with this bill. I would like to add that as the chair of Ag, I don't believe that this should be precedent setting in any way. This is for a very specific use under even a very specific water law in Colorado of how we look at ponds. So this should not be the beginning of a way that we perhaps duplicate or emulate going forward. This is a narrow use for a narrow purpose for even a narrower part of water law, and shouldn't be interpreted as chipping away at our prior appropriation system, but will be reluctantly supportive of the bill. I think they've done the work to get it where it is, but I really do get nervous when we start exempting any drop of water out of the prior appropriation system, because that does impact essentially every water user in the state.
Sarah Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I find myself in an interesting position given some of the discussions over the last couple of weeks about principle and about
Senator Simpson, one moment. Members, it's getting a little loud. So if we can use our whispering voices if you're not Senator Simpson. Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do find myself kind of in an interesting position, again, being in a minority here from the perspective of I'm a water right holder. There aren't very many of us in this chamber or in the legislature that actually own a water right. So as I was approached about this bill in December and early January, by default, my immediate response is I'm I'm a purist when it comes to the prior appropriation system. As challenged as that system gets in the press sometimes, and archaic as it's kind of described at times, it's really the only system that works in a water short system. The alternative is trying to share this very limited resource, and you have too many competing interests to really try to share that valuable resource across a variety of interests, and then nobody ends up with anything. So the prior appropriation system is what, you know, our state from a water perspective was founded on. The oldest water right in the state, the first decreed water right, was from 1852 in the San Luis Valley, in San Luis, in the People's Ditch. And we've managed to function well under that regime for, you know, 100+ years. You go onto the first floor rotunda. There's actually a series of paintings or panoramas on the first floor that are all centered around water and kind of highlighted by a poem from Thomas Hornsby Farrell. I don't know if he was the first Colorado Poet Laureate, but an early Colorado Poet Laureate. And the first line in that poem is, here's a land where life is built around water. And that, I mean, it's so important to me and my communities. It was a lot of the reason I threw my name in the hat to run for legislature, to give, you know, a stronger voice to water rights here, particularly with some of the, you know, term limits and retirements that folks have been advocating for water here for 16 years now. So I rise actually, again, in this kind of strange spot. On principle, I'm opposed to the bill. It is indeed a recognition of an illegal pond taking water through evaporative losses from another existing water right somewhere. And it's, you know, having been through water court myself, where I was challenged and had to go through the exhaustive, legal, expensive effort to perfect my water right, I just challenge others that that's the avenue that should be taken instead of offering an exemption. We do offer some exemptions and have since 1969 Water Rights Determination and Administration Act for, particularly for domestic wells and for wastewater treatment plants and for storm surge ponds. So it's not unheard of that we offer exemptions, but we haven't for many decades. And it's just rather challenging for me to think about as water resources in this state continue to struggle, as supplies dwindle and demands continue to increase, both municipal, recreational, environmental. I have concerns about moving this direction, about offering exemptions when there are ways to go through an exhaustive, expensive, legal effort to, quote, you mitigate the injury that you cause. So keep in mind, you know, and again, I want to reiterate and appreciate all the effort that the sponsors and the stakeholders have engaged with me over the last 10 weeks to try to get to a better spot. So the creation of limiting the number of surface acres of a pond in a county to 30 acres is admirable. But that 30-acre pond or series of ponds in an individual county, depending where they're at in their orientation, in the San Luis Valley in open, that would be 120 acre-feet of water lost to evaporation over those 30 acres. That's 120 acre-feet of water that belongs to somebody somewhere. I talk about within my basin, and I manage the Rio Grande Water Conservation Districts. I have a series of constituents last year, about 100 farmers, that couldn't mitigate 200 acre-feet of impact on a creek that flows about 40,000 acre-feet of water every year. They could not come up with these 200 acre-feet of mitigation, forced the state to shut those people down. Those farmers and water right holders were shut off from their supply of water till we took another different legal recourse to buy them some more time. So I'm just sensitive to this discussion and the impacts that happen to people in the real world, me individually and my constituents in the valley. So I do understand the necessity and the need and the public interest that's at stake here, but it's also this step people that have lived in Colorado long enough have a recognition of something called the public trust doctrine, which shows up on a ballot initiative every 4 or 5 years. And water is usually part of that conversation about transitioning away from the prior appropriation system and more to a system around the public trust doctrine, where the public gets to decide what's the most beneficial use of that water. That's problematic to me as a water right holder, particularly, that somebody else gets to dictate where the best value or where the best place to utilize my water resource is. So that all that builds up for me to a spot of, again, purely from a purist position. I can't support the bill. I appreciate, again, all the effort that went into it, but it's just problematic. I'll leave you with a visualization. So that 120 acre feet of evaporative losses from one county with 30 acres of these fire suppression ponds and I'm one of the few in here that's probably old enough, it's Bear Stadium or Mile High Stadium or Invesco Field or Sports Authority. It's filling that stadium with about 100 feet of water. That's what's lost every year to those systems, and that's, again, water that belongs to somebody else in the system. So, again, appreciate the sponsor and his willingness to work with me and the stakeholders really for the last 2.5 months, but I am a no on Senate Bill 114. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sarah Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And gosh, I am so glad that the senator from the Valley is going to continue to work on these issues, as the 3 people here that know water are all leaving at the end of the year. And I wish he would have been here several years ago when we talked about rain barrels. Because we had the same discussion then about rain barrels, and the damage that came from rain barrels was tenfold what the damage from these ponds are. Now, I'm a purist as well. I believe that we have a priority system, and that priority system has served Colorado well. I'm glad my senator's here to continue that mantle, but this message is specifically to him. Don't get your hopes up, my friend. We get our butts kicked on a regular basis. With that said, I am going to support the bill. 120 acre feet is a large amount. And it only matters to that one guy that when you're pulling the tags for who gets service next, if you're that one guy that water cut out of the system, he's the one going to be hurt. Is this for a better cause? I don't know. But I know my good friend from Fountain has worked very hard on this, and I will support this as I ride off into the sunset and paddle down the river of the South Platte. How's that?
Sarah Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as the good senator from Sterling paddles down the river on his way to Nebraska, enjoy the trip. I want to thank the senator for bringing this bill. I had some initial concerns, but I got to thinking about it, and as a guy who represents 85% of the water in Colorado, west of the Divide, we're so happy to share with you. I don't have a problem with that, as long as you don't try to do another tunnel. But we talk about evaporation, and I think it gives us a great opportunity to talk about evaporation. 120 acre feet, it's a lot of water maybe. But what we do in Colorado, we have the Colorado Compact, 75 million acre feet, 10-year rolling average. Colorado has never been up against that of being in danger of a compact call. We We talk about it each and every year as we go through our 20-plus years of drought. But let's talk about 860,000 acre feet of evaporation and seepage from Lake Powell that we send each and every year. 860,000 acre feet. That is about the same size as the largest reservoir in Colorado. So I'm going to support this. I am concerned about prior appropriations. But I'm also going to send you a message. If you are concerned at all about 120,000 acre feet or 120,000 acre feet of evaporation, why aren't you concerned about 860,000 acre feet of evaporation? And let's create some reservoirs at high altitude that use a lot less evaporation. That's for an aye vote on this.
Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too rise in support of 114, and I'm grateful to the bill sponsor and the stakeholders who put so much effort into the 4-page amendment that was just adopted to the bill. Representing Douglas County, wildfire is a significant concern for a significant number of the residents of our county. Fire suppression ponds get used in Douglas County. We've seen that before, helicopters swooping in and scooping water out of a private pond, and I've learned over the years that our commissioners follow up on that and make sure the landowners reimbursed for that. I am not a water expert, and when I first got to the legislature, I kind of had the naive perspective that water was kind of like air. It belongs to everybody, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. I've learned a lot from the good senator from Sterling. He sat near me when my first year in the House. The good senator from Montrose, I think, sat next to me. Former Speaker McNulty for a while sat there too, and my predecessor, Senator Ted Harvey, all water experts, and I have learned from them that truly every drop of water that exists here in the state of Colorado belongs to somebody. There's a prior appropriation. Everybody has a claim to every drop of that water. I've talked before in Parker, we have an amazing system, bit off topic of the bill, but we have a huge retention pond in Parker called the Ruderhest Reservoir, where water flows out. It's used by people in the Parker area. It goes back into the system, is pumped back uphill at night. It's cleaned and put back in the reservoir. Reusing water, amazing. But when we look at these retention ponds, there's, as my friend, the bill sponsor from Fountain has mentioned, there are places in our state where there aren't fire hydrants. There's pumped water out of wells. And very often in those rural areas, there's grass and trees and other buildings, things that burn. And we need these ponds in emergencies. And again, I'm just grateful to the senator for putting this level of work into such a complicated issue. I wouldn't have been able to get there, and I'm grateful, Senator, for your expertise and your willingness to work with stakeholders, and to have my friends from Sterling and Montrose come down and express support for the bill. With all due respect for our friend from Alamosa, we're on the same side of a different water issue. This is the most precious resource we have in Colorado, and I'm just grateful for the effort on the amendment, and will be an aye vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are welcome, Mr. Minority Leader. Thank you. We did a switcheroo magic trick. Senator Heisey, bring us home.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a closing comment here that as a freshman in 2019, I met with the Firewise folks from Bailey, with the DNR, with the state water engineer. We had a great meeting, and what came out of that meeting was the state water engineer saying, I'll have to have legislation to be able to do what you want. And so this bill has been a long time in the making. I encourage an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of a bill that has been widely praised as a great bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 114. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report. Colors sourced from plants, though, not fake colors. You know what else you can get from plants? Poison. There's some really bad plants out there. Everyone's like, no, it's natural. Arsenic's on the periodic table. That's natural, but it's not good for you.
Sir Bridges,
Yes, ma'am.
so they reset your speaker so everyone's working.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. That number is 1. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 114 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1089, 1165, and 1153 laid over until 3/31/2022 and retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 114, as amended, passed on second reading and order, engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1089, 1165, and 1153 laid over until 3/31/2022 and retaining their place on the calendar. Will the clerk please add Senator Winter to the roll? I don't know what you guys are talking about. I wasn't here. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take up a special orders calendar consisting of House Bill 1227, House Bill 1262, and Senate Bill 157 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:56 a.m. Colleagues, we will not be printing a calendar. Obviously, they're on page 2 of your calendar. It is the first 3 bills. And colleagues and Mr. President, it has been requested that House Bill 1247 be taken off of consent for tomorrow. That will be added to tomorrow's general order second reading of bills calendar at the bottom of the calendar.
That's right. It's a different
House
number,
Bill
lower number.
1247 will be removed
Depending on your
from
perspective.
tomorrow's consent calendar and will be placed on the general or second reading of bills calendar for tomorrow. The motion is that the Senate take up House Bills 1227 and 1262 and Senate Bill 157 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:56 a.m. This does require a 2/3 majority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. The Senate will take up House Bill 1227, 1262, and Senate Bill 157 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:56 a.m. Special order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
The The committee will come to order and the Coat rule is not relaxed. Will the clerk please read all of the bills on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1227, Representative Mullica, Senator Smallwood, concerning the continuation of the Healthcare Workforce Data Advisory Group and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation in the Department of Regulatory Agency's Sunset Report to repeal the advisory group. House Bill 1262, Representative Sullivan and Snyder, Senators Rodriguez and Cook, concerning the continuation of the authority of the Director of the Division of Workers' Compensation to impose fines on an employer for a subsequent failure to carry workers' compensation insurance within a specified period after a previous failure and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 157, Senators Holbert and Fenberg, Representatives Hooton and Van Winkle, concerning the enforcement of laws relating to unfair business practices committed by regulated persons.
In the interest of time, the Coat rule is relaxed for Senator Gardner. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of all the bills on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1247 and 1262, and Senate Bill 157 and the associated Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report.
Any discussion of the committee reports? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the report. The question before us is the adoption of the report on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. Any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of all of the bills on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and those bills are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before us is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report, and the Coat rule is no longer relaxed for Senator Gardner. Because we're done. Thank you.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee begs leave of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 157 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1227 and 1262 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
Motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 157 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1227 and 1262 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1276, Representatives Kipp and Exum, Senators Moreno, concerning the continuation of the Second Chance Scholarship Program and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation contained in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies to sunset the program.
Education. Announcements. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 168, which is scheduled to be heard Thursday in Senate Agriculture, will be laid over to a later date.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Finance Committee will be meeting this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. in the Old Supreme Court. We will be hearing the bills in the order in which they were printed on the calendar, 1001, 1118, 1025, 1098, and 138. See y'all then.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Health and Human Services Committee will meet at 1:30 in room 357. We're going to hear a number of governor appointments, but also Senate Bill 98, House Bill 1231, House Bill 1068, and Senate Bill 149. Senate Bill 155 has been laid over.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. After engaging with the minority leader and the majority leader, I request to be off Friday, April the 1st. No fooling.
Senator Simpson will be excused on April 1st. No joke. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in recess until 11 a.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return. We're just reading bills across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 11 a.m. today.